You are not alone on this bench. Not really. Across the centuries, across the quiet spaces of human sorrow, another figure sits with you. A woman perhaps younger than she feels older than she looks. Her shoulders slope beneath the weight of something immeasurable. Her arms hang loose, not with rest, but with loss. Her eyes scan the path ahead as if it might suddenly return what has been taken. Her name is Kisagotami, and though her time is long past, her grief still echoes in the hush of moonlit nights like this one. She was a mother, you see, a young one. Her child, her only child, fell ill and died, and the light in her world went out. Not metaphorically, truly. Imagine if you can bear it, carrying the still warm body of someone you love more than life itself. Not to a grave, but to door after door begging. Not for money, not for food, but for someone, anyone who can bring them back. You can feel her desperation like heat rising from the stone at your feet. The world had no answers. Door after door she was turned away, not with cruelty, but with the soft resistance of truth. The dead do not return, but Kisagotami was not ready to understand that yet. And maybe in some way you know this feeling too. Not necessarily the loss of a child, though. That is a unique and piercing sorrow, but the kind of loss that rearranges your entire world, and you're left stumbling in the ruins, asking impossible questions. Why, what now? Can someone, anyone fix this? She wandered like this for days, clutching her child's body, clinging to hope, like a drowning swimmer to driftwood. Her clothes stained with dust, her eyes wild with sleep-deprived pleading. People began to think she had lost her mind, but someone saw her not as mad, but as wounded, and they pointed her toward a different kind of healer. They told her, go to the Buddha, and so she did, still carrying the child in her arms. This is where we begin, not at the moment of loss, but the moment after all other doors have closed, when there's nothing left but the truth. And the truth at first feels unbearable. You sit with Kisagotami now, both of you cloaked in the same night, listening to the same distant wind moving gently through the leaves. You can almost hear her breath, ragged, uncertain, not unlike your own when the world falls apart. And the stars above, they don't try to fix anything. They just shine. The first step in her journey wasn't understanding impermanence or meditating on emptiness. It wasn't some great realization or religious insight. It was this: she was finally heard. The Buddha looked at her not with judgment, not with pity, but with the steady, tender gaze of someone who sees suffering and does not turn away. You don't need answers right now, only a place to rest, and someone to say gently, I see that this hurts. So tonight, as you lie back and let the darkness hold you, allow yourself this same simple truth. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to ache. You're not too much. You're not broken. You're just here under the stars carrying something heavy, and you've brought it to a place that can hold it with you. No need to let go yet. Just be. Just rest. The story will unfold like moonlight across water, slowly, without force, and exactly when it needs to. The air tonight is the kind that cools the skin without chilling the bones, gentle, almost tender. A breeze slips through the trees, carrying the scent of damp leaves and temple incense burned earlier in the day. You imagine a monk somewhere quietly extinguishing a flame, the smoke curling up into the rafters like a final sigh. In this hush, your breath is a soft thread in the weave of the universe. Beside you, Kisagotami rises. She has just heard the Buddha speak, not in riddles or lofty sermons, but in something plain and practical, something her grief-worn mind can grasp. Go, my sister. Bring me a mustard seed from a household that has not known death. At first, you see the flicker of hope in her eyes, sharp and sudden like a candle lit in a dark cave. Finally, a task, a solution, something she can do. Her hands tighten around the lifeless child in her arms, and she moves quickly, almost too quickly, as if running from the stillness that almost swallowed her. You follow behind her in this imagining, not to stop her, not to change the course of things, but to witness what it means to hope through sorrow. House to house she walks. You can almost hear the sound of her knock, gentle at first, then more desperate. The way her voice catches when she asks, "Has anyone died in your home?" Her voice is soft but urgent, like someone asking not for help, but for salvation. And every door offers the same answer: yes, yes, yes. One family has lost a mother, another a son, one a sister to fever, another a grandfather to the slow crumbling of age. Even the youngest houses, bright, newly built, full of life, have altars to the departed in the corner, little cups of water set before photographs or names scratched on wood. You imagine Kisagotami's breath growing shorter. The mustard seeds abundant in every home are useless in every case. The condition from a home untouched by death is impossible. She tries another house, and another, and another. Each time she is offered the seed, but never the absence of loss. And here the shift begins. You begin to see it before she does, that she is not alone, that her grief, while uniquely hers, is also mirrored 1,000-fold in every face she meets. It doesn't erase her pain, but it places it in context, like a single candle seen from the height of a mountain, one flame among a vast field of flickers. The truth, when it begins to settle, is not sharp. It is slow, like the way twilight becomes night, not in one moment, but in the gentle fading of color. And so you walk with her, not rushing her, not pushing her forward, just walking step by step into the vastness of human sorrow. And with each door she knocks on, you feel something in your own chest loosening, because maybe you too have carried something that you believed no one else could possibly understand. A sorrow so private that you wrapped it in silence. A fear that grief makes you fragile or wrong or broken. A belief that healing would only come if something were undone or reversed or fixed. But grief, as Kisagotami is slowly learning, is not a disease to be cured. It is a companion, a teacher, a river we're asked to float with, not dam up. As the night stretches on and the village settles deeper into stillness, Kisagotami begins to move more slowly. Her feet drag slightly. The bundle in her arms now feels heavier, not just physically, but with the quiet weight of truth beginning to seep in. You sit again now at the edge of a small garden. The scent of night-blooming jasmine is faint in the air. A cricket begins to sing. Kisagotami lowers herself beside you, her arms no longer clutching tightly to the bundle of cloth and memory. Her face is different now, not calm, not yet, but touched by the first breeze of acceptance. She has not given up. She has seen, and you in your own quiet way have too. You don't need to chase understanding tonight. You don't need to solve your grief. Instead, simply notice that, like her, you have walked through doorways of loss. You have asked questions the world couldn't answer. You have carried what was too heavy. And still you are here, breathing. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and falls silent again. The trees shiver slightly in the night wind. A distant temple bell chimes once deep and round a sound that seems to ring through the spine of the earth. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep yet, but to feel more deeply. Kisagotami sits beside you, not as a figure of tragedy now, but of courage. The courage to ask, the courage to see, the courage to go door to door until the world gently opened its arms and said, "We've all known loss." You feel the warmth of that realization now, like tea cooling in your palms, like moonlight spilling onto your knees. It is not a solution, but it is enough. Enough to rest, enough to breathe, enough to soften even slightly your grip on what cannot return. Tonight, let the impossible question go unanswered. Let the mustard seed fall where it may, and let yourself sit in the company of those who've loved and lost, and still, like Kisagotami, learn to see again. The stars above seem to shimmer more gently now, as if they've heard Kisagotami's story and grown quieter in reverence. You look up for a moment, letting your breath rise and fall like a tide beneath them. The night is no longer a backdrop, it has become a companion. Each flicker of starlight is like a soft nod from the universe whispering, "Yes, this is how it is." And still you are loved. You turn your attention back to the figure beside you. Kisagotami sits very still now. Her hands rest loosely in her lap, no longer clenched in effort or desperation. The child once held tightly to her chest lies in her arms, like a memory gently set down, not discarded, but cradled with the kind of love that does not beg for reversal. There is a silence between you now, not empty but sacred. This is the moment where the teachings begin to unfold, not through explanation, but through experience. The kind of moment the Buddha spoke of when he said the Dharma is like the taste of the sea. It can only be known through direct contact. No one can tell you what salt water tastes like. You must let it touch your tongue. And so here you are, tasting the bittersweetness of impermanence, of love and loss, of holding and releasing. You remember how she knocked on those doors, so many doors, and how the world offered her not the answer she was looking for, but the truth she needed to see. Death had touched every household. Sorrow was not the mark of her failure. It was the mark of her being alive. Maybe you've done the same in your own way. Maybe you've searched for the one moment, the one prayer, the one miracle that would undo what has happened, that would bring someone back, that would take away the ache, that would reverse time itself. And maybe, like her, you've begun to see that such a seed does not exist. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is honest. You hear a soft rustling. Kisagotami has stood again. This time, she walks not with frantic urgency, but with deliberate stillness. She walks through the same village, but everything has changed. Not the place, her eyes. She sees now what she couldn't before, grief on every doorstep. A grandmother staring longingly at an empty chair, a father quietly lighting incense before dawn, a child looking at a portrait and wondering what stories were left untold. The whole village breathes with loss and love. She no longer asks who has suffered. She knows now everyone has. And as she walks, you walk with her, not beside her now, but within her steps. You've been carrying something too, some memory, some sorrow, some echo of love you didn't want to end. And it's okay. It's okay that it still hurts. That's not a flaw. It's the evidence of love. You pause near a well. Its stone rim is worn smooth by generations of hands. Kisagotami places her bundle, the child, down beside it, not as abandonment, but as an offering to truth, to impermanence, to the tender aching beauty of what was once shared. You kneel beside her. Together in the quiet, you let the water reflect your face, and her face, and the stars. The surface holds all of it, sorrow, stillness story, and the moon overhead gazes back full and silver without asking you to hurry or heal. Sometimes letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering in a new way without the desperation to make it stay. You think of your own bundle, the memory you've been holding too tightly, the regret or the grief or the name that still echoes at night. And gently, only if you're ready, you imagine setting it down too, not casting it away, just resting it, letting it breathe, letting it be. A small breeze moves through the leaves. The night adjusts its posture around you. Somewhere a bird stirs in its sleep and settles again. You hear the Buddha's words, not spoken aloud, but carried in the hush. In a world where all things arise and pass away, sorrow becomes the doorway to wisdom. This is not a lesson you read in a book. This is not an idea to analyze. It is something you feel deep in the marrow of your being here, under the night sky, beside a well, with a woman who once believed she could defy death until she learned to make peace with it instead. And you here now are learning too that love does not end when a body does. That memory honored gently is a kind of prayer. That grief is not weakness, but testimony. You close your eyes and breathe in again. The air tastes the same, but something inside you has changed. There's more space, more silence, more softness. You don't need to hold so tightly anymore. The story is not over, but tonight this chapter comes to rest in your heart, like a petal falling onto still water. No splash, no need for noise, just one quiet moment of letting be. The road bends gently now. It winds through tall, slender trees whose leaves whisper like an old chant, half remembered in the wind. Kisagotami walks ahead, no longer gripping what was once her only tether to hope, but carrying something else now, something quieter, almost invisible, the weight of understanding. You walk with her, step for step. The earth beneath your feet is soft, packed with the passing of countless pilgrims' feet that, like yours, once carried questions too big for language. The trees arch above like a temple without walls, each branch a quiet prayer. And then you see him, the Buddha seated beneath a low tree, in a clearing kissed by moonlight. There is no fanfare, no dramatic moment. He simply waits as though he has always known you would come. His presence does not command it welcomes. The calm he carries feels less like something he radiates and more like something he's remembered, something you too might remember. Kisagotami bows, and so do you. She speaks no words. She doesn't have to. The silence between them is thick with all that has passed her search her sorrow, her surrender. And the Buddha does not offer answers. He does not promise healing or give her chance to repeat. He simply looks into her eyes with a gaze so still, so open that it reflects back her own knowing. It's not always the words that teach. Sometimes it's the stillness. And in that stillness, the lesson unfolds. The Buddha tells her not that grief is wrong, but that suffering arises when we cling, when we try to grasp what cannot stay. He does not scold her. He does not even soothe her. He sees her, and that you begin to understand is the teaching to be seen not as broken, but as human. You sit down beside Kisagotami, not to learn in the way of a student memorizing doctrine, but like a traveler resting near someone who knows the road a little better. The Buddha speaks again, his voice low and patient, like a river that never rushes but always arrives. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. You let the words land softly, not as an instruction to obey, but as a kindness to consider. You look inward now, gently. No digging, no force, just soft awareness. What have you been clinging to? A memory, a regret, a vision of how things should have been. You don't have to name it. Just notice and then breathe. Not to fix anything, just to allow space. Kisagotami's face changes. It doesn't brighten exactly, but softens. Her brow releases its hold. Her mouth, which once trembled with pleading, now rests in stillness. She bows again, not in defeat, but in reverence. Not for the Buddha alone, but for the truth that has slowly revealed itself, like the moon emerging from behind clouds. She sees now the mustard seed wasn't meant to be found. It was meant to be sought, so that through the seeking she might come to understand what words could never have given her. You think of the mustard seeds in your own life, the conditions you thought needed to be met before you could finally rest. If only they hadn't left. If only I'd said something different. If only things had gone another way. You thought those seeds were the cure, but now, sitting in this moonlit clearing with Kisagotami, you begin to feel something else. Not the answer, but a quiet loosening, like untying a knot you've carried in your chest for years. Like loosening your grip on the rope of what could have been and feeling for the first time the ground of what is. There's no dramatic moment, no epiphany that sweeps you off your feet, just a breath, then another. And in that breath space, you close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your lids, you see her Kisagotami walking back through the village, this time empty-handed. The child no longer in her arms, but not lost either. His presence has moved somewhere deeper, now beyond form, beyond grasp. She does not return in silence. She returns in peace, the peace of one who has let go, not because she was told to, but because she saw the truth clearly, and in that clarity, the hand unclenched on its own. You can feel your own fingers now, whether physically or symbolically relaxing, not fully, not forever, but enough. Enough to rest, enough to soften, enough to be. The Buddha speaks one more time, not aloud, not directly, but through the presence of the moment itself. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is love without attachment. You lie back in the grass now. The clearing embraces you like an old friend. Overhead, the stars still shine, steady, unrushed, and you begin to understand the sky does not weep when the stars disappear at dawn. It knows they are never gone, only unseen for a time. Perhaps your sorrow, too, is not a sign of weakness, but of connection. And maybe tonight you can let that be enough. You remain there, lying on the soft earth beneath the trees, your breath rising and falling like a calm sea under the moon's gaze. The world is hushed around you, as if it too is exhaling something it's carried too long. And Kisagotami walks again, not with urgency this time, not with despair, but with something deeper. She walks with presence. She does not look like someone who has lost something. She looks like someone who has seen something so ordinary, so universal, that it has cracked her heart open not in pain, but in understanding. The child is gone. That much is still true. That much will always be true. But something has shifted. She no longer searches for the seed that never existed. Now she sees the seeds of loss everywhere planted in every life, sprouting as sorrow, and when gently tended, blooming into wisdom. You follow her not with your body, but with your awareness. Each step she takes is a teaching without words. Her robes move like whispers against her legs. Her hands, once clenched in grief, now hang open at her sides. Her eyes do not plead, they see. She walks through the village again, but now she notices things. A man mending a roof, his movement slow with age. A child drawing shapes in the dust with a stick. A woman lighting a lamp at a small shrine, her face illuminated by the flickering flame. Everywhere life, and in every life a thread of loss, but also in every life a thread of endurance. You begin to understand why the Buddha sent her on that impossible errand, not to mock her pain, not to delay her mourning, but to help her see. Not as an outsider looking in on death, but as someone walking fully into the truth of the human experience. There is a strange kind of peace in this clarity. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of no longer resisting what is. Kisagotami returns to the Buddha once more. This time she carries no bundle. Her arms are empty, but her eyes are full. She kneels before him, her forehead brushing the earth. No words pass between them. There is no need. The lesson has been lived, not taught. The Buddha simply watches her with eyes like still water, like the calm that comes not from having avoided storms, but from having stood through them. You sit beside her again, close enough to feel the warmth of her quiet transformation. The village, once noisy with the sound of unanswered questions, has grown quiet. Not silent life still moves, but quiet in the way that things become after sorrow has been met with compassion. Kisagotami breathes deeply, and in that breath you recognize your own. Something inside you softens. Not everything, just enough. You think now of the mustard seed, that tiny thing you once believed would solve it all. The one exception, you hope to find the untouched house, the unwounded heart. And you realize it was never about finding that seed. It was about understanding why it could not be found. Because every house has lost something. Every life has felt a goodbye. The seed you sought outside was always meant to bloom inside, where sorrow turns to stillness, and stillness turns to seeing. You reach your hand to the earth beside you. The soil is cool, fragrant, with the breath of leaves and centuries of falling rain. It reminds you that all things return here, and from here, all things begin again. Death, the Buddha once said, is not the enemy. Clinging is. And clinging doesn't just happen with hands, it happens with thoughts, with expectations, with stories we tell ourselves about how things should have gone. But tonight, Kisagotami teaches you another story, a story where pain is not proof of failure, where letting go is not abandonment, but reverence, where grief is not a detour, but part of the path itself. You stand now in your mind's eye beside her under the same wide sky, and slowly you lift your face toward the stars. They have not changed, but somehow they look different. You remember someone you've lost. Perhaps they left this world long ago, or maybe they're simply not part of your life anymore. Either way, their absence is a space you still carry. You speak their name in your heart, not aloud, just silently, as if whispering into a vast open sky. And you feel it, not an answer, not a reply, but presence. They were here. You loved, you lost, and yet you continue. This too is a kind of miracle. A soft bell chimes somewhere in the distance. Its sound doesn't interrupt the silence, it deepens it. You sit with it for a while, let it echo through your chest. You're not rushing toward anything now. There is nowhere you need to be except here breathing with the night beside the ones who have come before you and the ones who will come after. Kisagotami closes her eyes, and you do too, not in defeat, but in peace. Not because the grief has ended, but because you've made space for it to sit beside you without consuming you, like a guest who came to tell you something important, and now, having been heard, no longer you needs to shout. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw loosen. Let your breath arrive and leave without effort. This is the beginning of something new, not forgetting, not replacing, just becoming soft enough to be with what is. Let it be enough. The village sleeps now. Its flickering lamps have grown dim, and all that remains is the hush between leaves, the subtle stretch of moonlight across rooftops, and the steady beat of your breath in the dark. You do not need to speak. You do not need to move. In this moment, your only task is to rest into being. Kisagotami has gone quiet too, not silent from weariness, but from fullness. The kind of quiet that arises when the struggle has dissolved, when the waves of emotion have receded, and what remains is not emptiness, but calm. She has returned from the world of seeking to the world of seeing. You walk now, not quickly, not with a goal, but with a soft presence that lets the night wrap around you like a shawl. You pass under the same trees, along the same narrow paths. But just like her, you're seeing things you hadn't noticed before. A vine reaching across a fence, blooming in the dark. A pair of sandals resting outside a door, their soles worn by many walks. A small bowl of rice left beside a shrine, offered to a grandmother who has long since gone. Loss, you realize, is not a break from life. It's woven into it. You stop near a water jar, left outside a modest home. Its surface holds the reflection of the stars above, slightly distorted, softly shimmering. A cat slips by without a sound, and you, standing still, begin to understand something deep and wordless. You've been carrying your grief like a stone tightly held, unwilling to set it down for fear it would mean forgetting. But maybe there's another way. Maybe it's not about letting go of grief. Maybe it's about letting grief rest, like a stone placed beside the road, acknowledged, remembered, but no longer weighing you down. Kisagotami kneels beside you once more. She doesn't say anything, but her posture speaks volumes. She lays her hands palm up on her knees, open to the sky. There's something in her face now that wasn't there before, a softness, a quiet strength. This is not the expression of someone who has moved on. It's the look of someone who has moved with the pain, with the truth, with the understanding that love does not end where breath does. And you feel it too, in your ribs, in the soles of your feet, in that quiet place behind your heart where memories like to hide. You can grieve and still be whole. You can miss and still move forward. You can remember and still rest. The Buddha once taught that life is like a dewdrop balanced on the tip of a leaf, beautiful, fleeting, radiant in the morning sun. The dew does not cling. It simply is for a moment and then returns to the soil. You are that dew too. All things are. And in this understanding, something releases within you, not dramatically, not all at once, but like the slow opening of a fist long held closed. You breathe in, and this time it feels different. Not deeper, not louder, just freer. You think now of the people you've known, the ones who are no longer here in form, and instead of tightening your chest, simply holds them like the night holds stars, not clinging, not pushing away, just allowing. Perhaps this is the lesson Kisagotami came to share, not just for herself, but for you, and for anyone who has ever begged the world to be different than it is. There is suffering, but there is also freedom. There is loss, but there is also love that survives it. There is death, but there is also the stillness that holds it all. You sit again on the stone ledge near the forest's edge, the same place where we began tonight. The stone is cool beneath you, steady. Above, the sky has not changed, but you have. Not because anything has been fixed, but because you've stopped trying to fix what was never broken. A breeze stirs the trees once more. The leaves shift, but they don't resist. They move with the wind and return to stillness. You feel that in your own body. The movement, the stillness, the breath, the release. Grief is not linear. It does not leave you all at once, but it becomes something else when you meet it like this, without shame, without urgency, without needing it to disappear. It becomes a teacher, and you become the student who does not rush the lesson. You look to Kisagotami again. She's gazing at the horizon now, where the first blush of dawn is beginning to rise. She does not fear the coming light. She does not mourn the passing night. She simply is awake in a new way, still holding the love, but not the weight. You can be that too, even now, especially now. Let your breath be the lantern. Let your heart be the open door. Let the sorrow be the mustard seed that taught you not where to search, but how to see. You sit back, eyes gently closing, and rest into the presence of this moment. Nothing to fix, nothing to seek, just this breath and the stillness it brings. The path continues, though you are no longer walking with your feet. It unfolds within you, now step by gentle step, like ripples spreading across a still pond. Kisagotami's story has not ended. It has simply become part of your own. A thread now woven into the fabric of your being, subtle yet strong. You lie on your side now, perhaps, or remain sitting upright. Your posture doesn't matter. What matters is how the story rests in your chest, not as weight, but as warmth, as a small candle kept safe within. Somewhere in the village, a rooster stirs, sensing the coming day, but it holds its cry not yet ready to break the peace of this night. You stay here a little longer, just listening, not with your ears, but with your presence. Kisagotami has returned to the forest, but not in retreat. This time, she has come not to flee from life's pain, but to dwell in its truths. She has found her way to a small monastic dwelling, not far from the riverbank, where the water glides over smooth stones and the wind moves gently through bamboo groves. The kind of place where even silence feels sacred. She has not abandoned the world, she has entered it more fully. The other nuns here welcome her, not with questions, but with tea, with space, with the kind of kindness that does not ask for explanations. In the morning, they will sweep the leaves from the courtyard, chant the verses of refuge, and go begging for alms. Kisagotami will join them, barefoot bowl in hand, and no one will speak of her past, not because it is denied, but because it no longer needs to be retold. You see her there, rising with the sun, placing one foot in front of the other, not escaping her grief, but walking with it as a quiet companion. Each step becomes a letting go, each breath a reminder, I am still here. And you begin to wonder, what if you too could walk this way? Not quickly, not seeking escape, but simply allowing yourself to be carried moment by moment, breath by breath, deeper into truth. You remember again the Buddha's words, all that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. Understanding this one is freed, not freed from feeling, but from fighting the feeling. You've fought so long, haven't you, against the tides of loss, against the ache of change, against the impossible task of holding everything exactly as it was. And now, slowly, you begin to feel what it's like to let go, not because someone told you to, but because your own heart shows you how. Letting go does not mean erasing what was. It means trusting that what was can live in you differently. Like Kisagotami, you place the grief down, not to forget it, but to change your relationship to it. No longer clutched like a wound, but carried like a wisdom. You picture your own path now, not someone else's version of peace, but yours. Maybe it's quiet, maybe it's full of pauses, maybe it curves and loops and doubles back. That's okay. That's the way of things. The moon begins to lower now, making space for the soft gray light of dawn. And still the night holds you, not pushing you forward, not rushing you to conclusion, just allowing you to be here whole in your softness. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings, low and round. It doesn't ask anything of you. It simply resonates like truth, like acceptance. You recall the Buddha again, not as a figure of stone or doctrine, but as a human being who also lost, who also saw the deaths of loved ones, who turned suffering not into bitterness, but into awakening. And Kisagotami followed in those same steps. So will you, not perfectly, not always gently, but sincerely. You lie back again, this time, fully allowing the ground to hold you. The sky above is not empty. It is full of stories, full of stars, full of echoes from every being who has loved and lost and lived on. And tonight, you are part of that great story, a single note in the great gentle song of letting go. Feel that, not as philosophy, but as presence. Right now, you are breathing, you are being, You are healing not by force, but by rest. So rest now. Let the edges of your body soften. Let the furrows in your mind smooth themselves out like ripples settling on a pond. Let each breath remind you this moment is enough. You have searched, you have seen, you are safe, and grief, it is still here, but it no longer needs to speak so loudly. It knows you are listening now. The forest breathes with you now. It doesn't speak, but it holds everything you've brought into its arms, the sorrow, the letting go, the moments you've quietly wished could be different. Trees stand like old monks in stillness, their trunks wrapped in moonlight, their leaves rustling with a soft understanding. Nothing here hurries, and so neither do you. You're still lying on the ground, your spine gently curved against the earth, and beneath your ribs, something spacious begins to open. You can't name it. You don't need to. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives like morning fog, slow, subtle, and impossible to grasp. Kisagotami, too, is sitting quietly, just a few feet away. She's settled into the rhythm of her new life, one bowl, one robe, one breath at a time. The monastery is simple. The meals are quiet. The path is clear, not in direction, but in intention. Each morning she rises before dawn. She bows to the Buddha, sweeps the stone floor of the hall, and walks with the other nuns into the village. They don't ask for pity. They don't sell their teachings. They receive what is given humbly and return without judgment. You see her holding her bowl, empty open like her heart. It's a paradox, isn't it? That the more we open ourselves, the more space there is for peace. Not because life stops hurting, but because we stop grasping. You remember the way she once held her child fiercely, desperately, as though her own life would stop if she let go. And now you see her holding nothing and yet not lacking. This is the quiet power of surrender. Not the kind of surrender that gives up, but the kind that grows up, that accepts, that forgives the world for not being what we once begged it to be. The Buddha once said that the cause of suffering is craving, not just craving for things, but craving for life to stay still, craving for permanence in a world built on change. And now you're beginning to understand what that means, not intellectually, but through the way your own breath comes and goes without your permission, through the way sleep arrives when you stop chasing it, through the way grief, once seen, no longer claws, but settles like dust after a storm. You sit up now, if only in your mind's eye, and watch the way the sky turns from blue-black to soft gray. It's not a dramatic change. It's gradual, like the way insight rises, not as a thunderclap, but as a quiet knowing. Kisagotami turns to you. She doesn't smile. She simply sees you. And in that gaze, you feel accepted. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've stopped trying to be someone untouched by pain. She gestures to a stone beside her. You sit. No words pass between you. Just presence. Just breath. And in this shared silence, you begin to sense that she has found something that was never missing, but hidden beneath the noise of desperation, a kind of peace that doesn't depend on answers. A peace that lives inside surrender. You bring to mind gently now something you've been holding, a memory, a hope that didn't unfold the way you'd planned, a loss that still echoes, and for a moment you don't push it away. You hold it in your awareness, like Kisagotami once held her child, not with panic, not with bargaining, just with love. Maybe this is what letting go really means, not casting it away, but placing it gently into the stream of time, trusting it will find its place. You feel the ground beneath you, solid, quiet, supportive. And you remember you're not broken for feeling. You're not behind in your healing. You're simply human, walking the same path as thousands before you, each learning step by step how to rest within what is. Above, the first birds begin their morning chorus. Not loud, not urgent, just enough to say the night is passing. You're not rushing it. You're not clinging to it. You're just here with Kisagotami, with your breath, with your grief, and with the slow, sacred unfolding of release. Let the stillness remain a little longer. Let your thoughts pass like clouds. Let your heart beat steady. You are not what has been taken from you. You are what remains, what continues, what softens. And that softness is not weakness. It is your strength. A strength like the lotus blooming in mud. A strength like the moon's glow on a rippling stream. A strength that says, I feel, and still I remain. Rest in that. Let this be enough. There is something quiet unfolding inside you, like a fern unfurling at dawn, slow, deliberate, entirely without force. You don't need to make anything happen. You don't need to become anything more. You are simply here letting truth rise in you, the way mist rises from the forest floor, naturally, inevitably, softly. Kisagotami remains near. Her presence, though silent, is deeply grounding. She does not guide you with words, but with the example of how she sits upright, yet relaxed, present, yet unattached. A life once shattered has been slowly pieced back together, not as it was, but into something wiser, something more whole, and you, like her, are learning to sit with what is. The teachings you've heard, the parables, the verses, the reflections, they are not commands. They are invitations. They whisper, not shout. And tonight one whisper rises gently in your heart. This too belongs. The pain you've held, the memories that tug, the longing that has yet to soften, all of it belongs. There is no experience unworthy of compassion, no emotion too heavy to be carried by awareness, no sorrow that cannot rest in the lap of mindfulness. You begin to notice how your breath moves differently now. It no longer feels caught in the throat or tight in the chest. It flows quietly, kindly, as if it too has been waiting for your permission to ease. You think of Kisagotami's walk through the village house door to door, asking the same question again and again: has anyone died here? At first, her search seemed desperate, even hopeless. But now you see it was a kind of pilgrimage, a sacred journey through the universal terrain of suffering. Every person she met had faced loss, and yet each went on. Each rose again the next morning to cook rice feed. Animals sweep floors, tend to the living. Kisagotami didn't find a home untouched by death. But she found something even more powerful, a shared humanity, a great silent fellowship of the heartbroken. And in that fellowship, her grief no longer felt isolating. It became part of the fabric of life. You are part of that same fellowship. You always have been. There is something deeply comforting in that isn't there. To know that your pain is not proof of failure, that your sorrow is not an exception, that your tears are part of the river that connects us all. A small wind moves through the trees. The sky above is fading from night's indigo to the soft pearl of pre-dawn. The transition is so gradual, so natural, you barely notice it until suddenly the stars seem fainter, the horizon lighter, like the way you're changing now, not in any visible way, but in the way your heart holds itself, with more patience, more understanding, more space. Kisagotami stands. She bows to the trees, then to the earth, then to the quiet that has carried her here. You do the same, following her lead, not out of obligation, but from gratitude. There is power in bowing not as submission, but as surrender to what is real. You think now of your own life, of the people who have shaped you, the places that have held you, the moments that have cracked you open, and the ones that slowly stitched you back together. There's no need to rush through them. Let them rise in you one by one, like waves approaching the shore. Let them wash over you and then recede, leaving behind only smooth stones and glistening sand. Kisagotami does not offer you advice. She offers something better: her presence, her steadiness, her quiet example. And perhaps you'll remember her not just as the woman who lost her child, but as the woman who walked through grief and found on the other side a kind of peace that didn't erase love but honored it more fully. You can do the same. Tonight is not about resolution, it's about return. Returning to yourself, to the quiet truth that was always there beneath the noise, that you are not your grief, you are not your past, you are not your fears, you are the space that holds them. You are the awareness that sees without judgment, the breath that rises again after sorrow, the silence that stays even after the story ends. Let yourself sink into that, not in thought, but in being. You are safe, you are seen, and you are not alone. The sun has not yet risen, but the sky is preparing for it. A faint silver blush stretches along the horizon, casting a gentle hue over the tops of trees. It's the hour when night and morning blend into each other, when time itself seems to pause. You are still here, resting in the arms of this slow unfolding, held not by resolution, but by presence. Kisagotami moves through the courtyard of the monastery. Her steps are light now, not because the grief has vanished, but because she no longer resists it. She walks as one who carries nothing, yet holds everything. She pauses by a young sapling, just beginning to stretch its limbs toward the light. She touches one of its leaves and smiles, not broadly, not with performance, but with the soft ease of someone who has remembered something important. You sit nearby, breathing in the same air. There is no need to ask her what she's thinking. You already feel it. It's the peace that comes not from forgetting, but from integrating, from allowing the ache to be part of the whole rather than something to fight or fix. So much of our suffering, you realize, comes from the way we resist what already is, the way we hold ourselves rigid against the flow of life, as if we could stop the river by bracing our feet in the sand. But resistance only exhausts. It doesn't protect. You feel that truth in your body now, in the way your shoulders sink a little lower, in the way your breath no longer rushes in, but arrives naturally without needing to be controlled. You've done enough. You've struggled long enough. Tonight, your only task is to release. Release the grip of trying to understand. Release the belief that healing must be fast. Release the idea that grief means something has gone wrong. In Buddhist teachings, there's a story of a monk who carried a heavy pack on his back for miles. When he finally set it down, the Buddha simply asked, "What is heavier, the burden or the fear of setting it down?" The monk didn't answer. He didn't need to. You feel it now in your own life. Sometimes the hardest part is not the weight itself, but our fear of what will happen when we let it go. What if we forget them? What if we lose ourselves? What if letting go is a betrayal? But Kisagotami shows you the truth. Letting go is not the same as letting go of love. It is letting go of the struggle to make things other than they are. It's saying yes to the mystery, yes to the ache, yes to the breath that continues even in sorrow. She moves now toward the water's edge. A small stream runs beside the monastery, its song a constant murmur of movement. She kneels and cups water in her hands, then lets it go, watching as the ripples spread out in ever-widening circles. You follow her lead in your mind's eye. You too imagine scooping up the ache you've been carrying, not to throw it away, but to bless it, to release it gently back into the stream of life. Watch it float, watch it drift, watch it become part of something greater than you, and feel your chest expand, feel your palms open, feel your heart whisper, "I don't have to hold this so tightly anymore." There is no rush. There is no end goal. You are not here to conquer grief. You are here to walk beside it until it softens into something sacred. You return to your seat under the tree. Kisagotami sits once more beside you. Together, you face the coming light. The stars have mostly faded now, but one remains a lone sentinel in the morning sky. It reminds you of someone, maybe someone you've lost, maybe a part of yourself that once felt far away, and in the quiet, you offer them your breath. No words, no pleading, but just the simple act of continuing. The Buddha once said, "As a candle cannot burn without fire, so too a person cannot live without a spiritual life." And you are living it now, not through rituals or robes, but through presence, through awareness, through this very breath. You have already begun to walk the path. You are learning to live with open hands, to sit without answers, to love without holding so tightly. And that is enough. Let the breeze kiss your cheeks. Let the ground hold your weight. Let the early morning light brush your closed eyelids. You are not alone in this dawn. You are held by the same universe that held Kisagotami when she thought she could not go on, and yet she did. So will you, not perfectly, not quickly, but sincerely and gently. Let your jaw soften, let your shoulders rest, let your breath carry you into the next moment, and the next, and the next. There is nothing more you need to do right now. Just be here, with this story, with this stillness, with this love. The world is no longer dark, but it hasn't quite become day. This is the hour of liminality, when light is being born, and everything seems to pause in reverence. You sit quietly held between what has been and what will be, breathing into this gentle in-between. The stream beside you murmurs over stone, a lullaby of impermanence. It doesn't resist the rocks, it simply flows around them. That too is a kind of wisdom, to move with what appears, to let life shape its way through you without hardening in response. Kisagotami is nearby, her back straight, but not rigid, her hands resting easily in her lap. She breathes like someone who has made peace with her breath, no longer using it to grasp or control, but to accompany life's movements with grace. You mirror her, now letting your body take the shape of ease. There is no tension here, no shoulds, no fixing, only the kind of quiet that arises when you've stopped asking the world to be different and started asking your heart to be more spacious. As you inhale, you feel the cool air slip in like light through an open window. And as you exhale, you feel the gentle release of whatever remains clenched, even if just a little. This moment doesn't require you to change. It asks only that you remain. You remember a time perhaps not long ago when you felt overcome by loss, when sleep felt like a stranger, when even stillness brought more sorrow than peace. Maybe you felt broken then or alone. Maybe you wondered if the sadness would ever ease. And yet here you are, breathing, listening, letting the story of another become the quiet mirror for your own. Kisagotami didn't banish grief from her life. She didn't find a mantra to erase it or a ritual to contain it. What she found was something quieter, more enduring, a stillness beneath the ache. A place where the pain could rest without overtaking her. A spaciousness wide enough to hold sorrow and serenity in the same breath. And perhaps you're beginning to feel that too. You look around. The trees have taken on a soft gold edge, now their leaves touched by morning. The world is waking, but nothing is rushing. The sun does not force itself over the horizon. The light comes slowly, as if asking permission from each blade of grass. And maybe that's how you heal too, not in leaps, but in these small, slow risings, in the way your breath deepens without you noticing, in the way a name that once brought tears now brings silence, in the way you remember without unraveling. You bring your hand to your chest now. Feel the rhythm there, not frantic, not dulled, but steady. This heart has loved. This heart has hurt, and still it beats. You whisper something to yourself, not out loud, but in the quiet of your being. I allow this moment to be enough. You think of the mustard seed again, how it once seemed like salvation, a promise that something could be done, that death could be reversed, that if you just tried hard enough, the world might give you back what it took. But now the mustard seed has become something else entirely. It is not a task. It is a teaching, a symbol that asks, can you see your suffering as shared? Can you lay down the idea that grief is proof of failure and embrace the truth that loss is part of love's landscape? You let that question settle in you, not to answer it, but to live it. Kisagotami rises. She carries a small broom made of dried palm fronds. With slow care, she begins to sweep the stone courtyard, one leaf at a time, one breath at a time. You watch her. There's something beautiful in the ordinariness of it. To return to simple acts, to place attention on what's right here, to make the ground clean, not for show, but as an offering. You remember now how Buddhist monks and nuns live not to escape the world, but to see it clearly, to wash bowls not with resentment, but with mindfulness, to sweep not just dust, but distraction, to chant not to be heard, but to dissolve into sound. And maybe that's what your healing needs too. Not grand gestures, just the soft repetition of presence. Sweep your thoughts gently. Wash your moments with kindness. Light incense not to mask pain, but to honor it. There's a teaching here that wisdom doesn't always come in lightning bolts. Sometimes it comes in dust rising as you sweep the path, in the steam from a cup of morning tea, in the single breath between sorrow and peace. You sit with that now, not needing to understand it, just letting it move in you. A bell rings again in the distance, deep, rounded, slow. It feels like the heartbeat of the earth itself. You let it pass through you like water through fingers. Kisagotami finishes her sweeping. She leans the broom gently against the wall and turns toward the rising sun. Her face is still touched by something sacred, not bliss, not triumph, but clarity. The kind that sees grief clearly and chooses tenderness anyway. You do the same. You don't need to rush into your day, or into sleep, or into anything. For now, all that's asked of you is this: be still, be soft, be here. This is how healing happens, one breath at a time. The light is soft now, neither fully night nor yet true day. It feels like a dream you don't want to wake from, not because it escapes reality, but because it reveals a gentler one. You are still resting here, where each breath feels like a lullaby, and each moment a deepening into stillness. Kisagotami stands in the newly swept courtyard. The sun has begun to spill over the low eastern hills, not as a blaze, but as a warm hush brushing the tops of the trees and the edges of her robe. She doesn't chase the light. She simply turns her face toward it and receives. You do the same now, and as the sun rises, something inside you lifts, not dramatically, not like a curtain rising, but like steam rising off a cup of tea, slow and unforced. The ache is still there, yes, but now it rests in a wider sky, and you've begun to see it not as a punishment, but as a teacher. This is the part of the journey where nothing new has to happen. The story isn't changing anymore, it's simply deepening, like the way still water reflects the sky, not because the sky needs to change, but because the surface has become calm enough to hold it. You return to your breath, that simple thread that has been with you all along. It has walked with you through every step of this story. It has held you through sorrow and silence, through soft revelations and tender pauses. Now it cradles you in the clarity that remains. You inhale slowly, gently, and you exhale completely peacefully. It's not about doing anything, just noticing, letting go of the doing, letting yourself be breathed. The Buddha once said, "The mindful breathe in and know they are breathing in. The mindful breathe out and know they are breathing out." And that's enough. Kisagotami now kneels beside a small basin of water near the edge of the temple garden. She dips her hands and rinses her palms and lets the droplets fall back in silence. She touches her forehead, her heart, her shoulders, as if to say this body is not a burden. This body too is impermanent, and yet it is the temple in which awakening lives. You place your own hand to your chest. Feel the breath moving through you, the quiet rhythm, the soft arrival, the simple fact that you're still here, that despite everything you've lost, everything you've questioned, and everything you've carried, you remain. And that is enough. Kisagotami walks the path that loops around the monastery's inner garden. She does not walk to arrive. She walks to walk. You imagine following her barefoot your steps, quiet on the smooth stones. With each step, something softens further inside you. Step this breath, step this body, Step this moment. There is no striving here, no ambition, only awareness. Awareness that the world does not owe you answers, that healing does not mean forgetting, that sorrow, when allowed to sit quietly beside you, becomes not a chain but a doorway. You pause by a small fig tree. Its leaves quiver slightly in the early morning breeze. A single fruit rests on the ground, soft and split open. Not wasted, returned. Returned to the earth, the cycle, the truth that all things come and go. That nothing is wasted if it's seen. That even loss nourishes something. And maybe your grief too is nourishing you quietly, invisibly teaching you how to sit, how to breathe, how to listen with a heart that no longer demands answers. You sit again beneath the tree. Kisagotami joins you. There is no conversation, just the presence of two people who know something of grief, something of letting go, something of the beauty that remains even after everything has changed. You think back to that first night, that desperate searching, the knocking on door after door, hoping for someone to undo what had already happened. And now all those doors have become mirrors, each one showing you not a solution, but a reflection. A reminder that grief is not yours alone, that the path of sorrow is the path of all beings, that what has felt like isolation is in truth connection waiting to be seen. You look up now. The sky is a pale gold. The last of the stars have faded not with violence, but with peace. And so too perhaps will the sharpest edges of your pain, not because you erase them, but because you allow them to soften in the light of your awareness. The breath comes again, and now you let it linger. You are no longer resisting. You are no longer bracing. You are here, breathing, witnessing, becoming. This is the practice, not to transcend sorrow, but to welcome it into the temple of your life with reverence, to bow to what hurts, and in that bowing to find a strange, inexplicable freedom, a freedom that says, even this belongs. Let your hands relax, let your shoulders drop, let your breath move through you like a gentle stream. There's no need to be anywhere else. You are already home. You are already whole. The air feels a little warmer now, as if the earth itself has exhaled after a long, cool night. There is a softness to the new day, not in sound, but in sensation. The way sunlight finds its way through leaves, dappled and golden. The way shadows stretch across stone walkways, like gentle reminders that time moves whether you chase it or not. You sit beneath the fig tree, not because you're tired, but because it's the perfect place to be nowhere else. Beside you, Kisagotami rests in the same silence, her breath slow, her gaze downward, not out of shame, but in humble reverence. She is no longer a woman searching. She is now a woman seeing, seeing with a heart that has been broken open and made spacious by sorrow. You turn inward for a moment, and in that turning, you notice something. Your grief has changed shape. It is no longer a storm. It is no longer a scream. It is a low hum now, like a singing bowl long after the mallet has left it. A presence, not an interruption. A thread that lives within you, no longer demanding attention, just asking to be acknowledged. This is how it begins to heal, not through forgetting, not through pretending, but through allowing. You recall the many rooms Kisagotami once entered, asking her impossible question, has anyone here not known death? And each answer, no matter how gentle, was a doorway into truth. No house was untouched, no heart immune. You see now it was never about the mustard seed. It was about the asking, about knocking on doors and learning that grief is not exile, it is invitation, not out of life, but into it deeper, more fully, more honestly. In this quiet moment, you gently bring to mind someone or something you've lost, a person, a time in your life, a version of yourself. You don't rush the memory. You let it approach like a deer at the edge of a clearing, slow, cautious, alive. And when it arrives, you welcome it. You don't tell it to leave. You don't push it away with platitudes. You just breathe and let it sit beside you. Because now you understand this too is part of you, not as a burden, but as a thread in the great one cloth of your story. Without it, the pattern would be incomplete. Kisagotami places her hands together in a small gesture of gratitude. She does not explain it. She does not perform it. She simply bows to the earth, and then to the sky, and then perhaps inward to the one who survived. You do the same. Bow to what hurt. Bow to what stayed. Bow to the path that brought you here. There is a teaching in the Buddhist tradition that says just as the ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too does the Dharma have one taste, the taste of freedom. And tonight, or perhaps now this morning, you begin to taste it. Not the freedom from grief, the freedom within grief. The kind of freedom that says even with the ache I can sit quietly. Even with the memory, I can rest. Even with the loss, I can live. And you are living right now, right here, in this body, with this breath. You run your fingertips gently across the grass beside you. It's slightly wet from morning dew. That coolness on your skin reminds you the world continues. The sun still rises. The earth still gives. And your heart, after everything, still feels. Isn't that remarkable? Not that you feel only joy, but that you feel at all. Kisagotami stands now and begins walking the outer path of the temple grounds. Not hurriedly. Her pace is slow, deliberate. Her eyes take in everything: the curve of the garden wall, the sound of distant birds, the scent of something sweet blooming just beyond sight, and you follow her not just with your imagination, but with your whole awareness. With each step, you feel the teachings settle more deeply into your bones. You no longer carry the weight of making grief disappear. Instead, you walk with it as a quiet companion. You offer it your breath, your kindness, your rest. And in doing so, it softens. In doing so, you soften. The world does not demand you be healed to be worthy of peace. The path does not demand perfection. Only presence, only willingness, only this breath. You arrive back at the courtyard now. Kisagotami stops and gazes toward the east. The sun is almost fully risen, a gentle golden disk lifting over the horizon, touching the roof tiles with its light. The warmth on your skin is real. It feels like a blessing, and maybe in a way it is. Not because anything has been fixed, but because you no longer need fixing. You are whole enough to feel, whole enough to remember, whole enough to rest. Let your breath move gently now. In, out, like the tide, like the leaves, like the life within you that refuses to abandon you, even in sorrow. Let that be your practice. Let that be your home. You are not lost. You are simply learning to see again, and the view, though tender, is beautiful. You remain still for a while longer, letting the light unfold across your skin like a warm shawl. The day has begun in the world beyond this quiet refuge, But here in this small corner of stillness, the pace of things continues to honor slowness. There's no rush, no expectation, no pull toward activity. Only this soft settling, this presence, this breath. Kisagotami is arranging offerings now. A small clay bowl of water, a few petals from a wildflower, a piece of fruit so perfectly ripened that it seems a gift in itself. These are not grand gestures. They are simple, and because they are simple, they are holy. The altar she prepares is not for show. It is a space of remembrance, a space of quiet reverence for the love that once lived in form and now lives in memory. You sit close enough to see the small flame she lights in the lantern by the altar. It flickers gently steady despite the soft wind. You watch the way the flame dances, never quite still yet, never chaotic. That too feels like a metaphor for your heart, resting yet alive, grounded yet responsive. The Buddha once said, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. And you are living it now, not in rituals or robes, but in this act of being present with what is. In the soft bow of your spirit toward truth, in the sacred stillness of your noticing, you allow yourself to remember now, not with tension, not with the desire to fix or control. Just remember. Perhaps you picture a face, or hear a voice, or sense the shape of a presence that's no longer physically near, but still intimately known. It rises in your awareness, like a reflection, in a still pond, not summoned, just revealed. You don't grasp at it. You don't turn away from it. You simply let it be there. The grief is quieter now. Like incense smoke curling through the air, it lingers, but it no longer suffocates. It's become something else, something you carry with reverence, like Kisagotami with her offerings. You begin to see that memory too can be a form of devotion, not clinging, not escaping, but honoring. You place your hand on the earth palm down. You feel the warmth of the sun beginning to soak into the soil. You imagine every tear you've ever cried sinking down into that earth, not lost, but transformed, feeding roots, growing flowers, nourishing the unseen. The pain did not disappear, but it changed. It softened. It taught. It opened something that only sorrow could open the doorway to a deeper love. A love that does not depend on presence. A love that does not fade when the body fades. Kisagotami kneels beside you. She begins to chant softly, not for others to hear, not for performance, but for the gentle realignment of her own heart. The words are ancient, their sounds carried by countless voices across centuries. And yet in this moment, they feel like they were meant just for now. You don't need to understand the language. The intention carries everything. You place your hands together in a soft gesture of respect, not just for her, but for what she represents, for the journey through loss, for the courage to feel, for the patience to heal slowly. A light breeze moves through the garden. The flame flickers again, briefly bending, but never going out. And you remember something else now, something that has waited patiently for you to return to it. Love does not end with loss. It changes shape. It lives in different ways. It appears in gestures and echoes in stillness. It shows up in the way you tend your days, in the way you speak a name without fear, in the way you soften your heart, not just for others, but for yourself. You think again of Kisagotami, how she once wandered through villages with her lifeless child in her arms, begging for a miracle. and how through that journey she received something even more profound than resurrection. She received understanding. She was not alone in her sorrow. Her pain was not failure. It was shared. It was human. And it could in time be a path. You now walk that path. Each time you breathe gently with your sorrow instead of pushing it away. Each time you sit with memory without judgment. Each time you offer love without needing it to stay. You follow in her footsteps, and you are not alone. You let your breath deepen again. The garden is still around you. The trees, the altar, the quiet flame, all holding space. And now within you there is space too, not absence, not emptiness, but space, room to breathe, room to remember, room to release, room to live with your grief, not as an enemy, but as a companion who, when met with compassion, becomes a guide. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and in the darkness, you see not emptiness, but stillness, not loss, but presence. And this presence is enough. Let your hands rest easily now. Let your jaw soften. Let your breath return over and over, like a quiet tide against the shore of your being. You are not holding grief anymore. You are holding love, and that love holds you. You remain by the altar a little longer. The sun has now risen fully, but it doesn't blaze, it glows. A soft, warm radiance that touches everything with equal grace. The grass beneath your knees, the weathered steps of the temple, the delicate hands of Kisagotami folded in her lap. Even the sorrow inside you seems to glow now, not as a wound, but as something sacred. And perhaps that's the truth. This moment reveals that grief too can be holy when held with compassion. Kisagotami turns her head slightly. Her gaze is clear but not piercing. There's no urgency in her eyes, no demand that you be better, wiser, or more healed than you are. She sees you exactly as you are breathing, remembering, learning to soften. And she nods as if to say, "That is enough." You return the nod silently. The wind carries the scent of jasmine, now newly opened in the warmth. A butterfly, pale and silent, floats past your vision, then disappears. You don't follow it with your eyes. You just notice. That too is enough. You rest your hands, palms up in your lap, fingers relaxed. This posture is not submission. It's invitation, a gesture that says, "So, I am open. I am willing. I am here." The Buddha once taught, let go of what is not yours. Let go of what has passed. Let go of what has not yet come. And in the letting go, find freedom. These words are not sharp. They're soft like worn silk. And you begin to understand that letting go isn't a dramatic act. It's not a wrenching or a breaking. It's more like the way a leaf detaches from a tree in autumn, not because it is pushed, but because it is time. And perhaps for some part of you, it is time not to forget, not to move on, but to release the tightness, to unclench, to stop gripping the past as if it were the only place love ever lived. Kisagotami lights a stick of incense now. The smoke curls upward like a prayer with no words, no object, just devotion. You watch the smoke twist, shift, dissolve into the morning air, and you feel your breath move the same way, effortless, tender enough. There is something in this moment that does not need to be improved, something whole about this stillness. You bring your attention inward again gently. What part of you still hurts? What part of you still longs for what could have been? Can you hold that part now without trying to fix it? Imagine yourself placing it, not rejecting it, not ignoring it, but gently setting it down on the altar beside Kisagotami's flower and fruit and bowl of water. Not to rid yourself of it, but to honor it, to see it, to say this too has lived inside me, and to give it a place not in shadow, but in light. There's a reason we call it a heart offering, because it costs something to place our truth into the world, even silently. It costs vulnerability, it costs presence, it costs love. And tonight, or this morning, or whenever you hear this, you've given that offering, not to anyone else, to yourself, and the universe has received it. Kisagotami stands. She does not speak. She simply bows to the altar once more, her hands in Angeli palms together, fingers upward, heart open. You do the same, and in that bow something releases. Something tiny, something real, not everything, but enough. You rise with her and begin walking the stone path through the garden. The birds are singing now, not loudly, but with a kind of joy that doesn't demand attention, just being themselves, just greeting the light. As you walk, you begin to sense that the grief you've carried has changed form. It's not gone, but it's no longer dragging behind you. It's beside you now, walking gently like a companion who doesn't need to speak just to be. You reach the edge of the garden. The outer world waits beyond it. The sounds of daily life returning. A cartwheel squeaking. Someone sweeping the road. A kettle whistling in a nearby home. Life is happening, and you are still in it, still breathing, still capable of beauty, still allowed to feel both loss and love in the same breath. Kisagotami pauses at the gate. She looks to you once more. Her journey with grief did not end with enlightenment. It became her practice. It shaped how she lived, how she taught, how she loved. And now you carry that lineage forward, not as a burden, but as a gift. You bow to her, not because she is perfect, but because she is real. You bow to yourself too for all that you've held, for all that you've released, for the gentleness you are now allowing. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest by your sides. Let your breath be the only prayer you need. And know this, you do not walk alone. Grief has walked this earth long before you, and peace too has walked beside it. Let them both be your teachers. Let yourself be the student who finally puts down the weight not to abandon it, but to walk freely with it under the warmth of a soft morning sun. The gate stands open now, not as a threshold to cross with fanfare, but as a quiet invitation. You don't rush through it. You simply pause there beside Kisagotami, letting the air of the wider world brush across your skin. It carries the scent of warming earth, of cooking rice in distant homes, of the quiet beginning of an ordinary day. And that's the most surprising thing of all. After such a journey through sorrow, such a long descent into stillness, the world is still here, unchanged in its movements, yet different to your eyes. You've changed not into someone new, but into someone more tender, more aware, more at home in the truths that do not shift. Kisagotami turns slightly her eyes, meeting yours for just a moment. There's no lesson to deliver, no final instruction. Her presence itself is the teaching, the way she stands with ease, the way she breathes without effort, the way she sees you without needing you to be anything else. You step through the gate. Beyond it lies the road, hard-packed dirt, marked with wheel ruts and footprints, flanked by the shadows of trees swaying lightly in the breeze. You take a few slow steps, your body feeling grounded, your breath steady. And then something happens, not a revelation, but a remembering. You realize that this too is sacred. This moment of returning, of re-entering the worlds, not with armor, not with grand answers, but with gentleness. The Buddha once described the awakened one as someone who walks the world with a mind like a vast sky. And perhaps now you begin to understand. It's not that sorrow disappears, it's that it finds its place, like clouds drifting through that sky, never separate from it, never staying forever. You look down at your feet as they move one after the other along the road. The same road where suffering walks, where questions linger, where people laugh and weep and forget and remember. You do not walk above this world, you walk within it, and that you now understand is the beauty. Kisagotami continues along her path, her steps small, steady, faithful. She does not walk to escape life's pain. She walks to remain in contact with its truth. You follow not because you must, but because you want to. Not out of fear, but out of love for her, for this a path for yourself. You pass by a home. Outside, a woman is tending a garden. Her hands are deep in the soil, pulling weeds, pressing new seeds into place. She does not look up. She doesn't need to. Her presence is enough, and that image stays with you, because that's what you're doing now too, planting something. A small seed of peace, a seed of release, a seed of understanding that even loss can be fertile. You bring to mind again the grief that first brought you to this story, the ache that once sat like a stone on your chest. It's still there, but something is different. It no longer defines your shape. It lives alongside your breath, not inside it. And that difference is freedom, not dramatic, not absolute, but real. You pause beneath a tree whose long branches sway like robes in the wind. The shade is cool, and you rest there for a moment, letting your breath deepen. You reflect on the truth you've been walking with, section by section, story by story. Grief is not a curse, it is a continuation, a chapter in the longer story of love. And letting go is not a betrayal. It is the final kindness, the open hand, the unclenched fist. You hear footsteps behind you and turn. Another monk is passing, eyes low, hands clasped before him. You share a soft nod, no words needed. He carries his sorrow too. You can see it in the way he walks, not heavy, not light, but true. This is the shared silence of the human path, and you are no longer walking it alone. You bow slightly as he passes, and then return to your own step, one breath, one step, one moment at a time. The wind rises again, playful now. It rustles the trees, lifts a few dry leaves into the air, and dances them across your path before letting them fall gently exactly where they belong. Like everything in life, born, lifted, carried, released. You begin to see your own story this way, not in fragments, not in regrets, but as a movement, a flowing, a song with many notes, including the quiet ones, including the pauses. You don't need to know what comes next. You just need to keep walking with presence. Kisagotami is still ahead, walking her path in silence. She is older now, wiser, But in your heart, she will always be that mother who once knocked on doors in the dark, searching for an answer and finding instead a deeper seeing. And through her, you've found your own. You bow once more inwardly this time, to the sorrow that shaped you, to the breath that steadied you, to the wisdom that waits always within the letting go. The sun is high now, the path stretches before you, and you are ready to walk, not without memory, not without ache, but with gentleness. And that gentleness is everything. The road is quiet beneath your feet. Dust clings lightly to your sandals, and the gentle rhythm of your steps creates a kind of mantra, soft, steady, grounded. The world around you hums in its own way, bees drifting lazily between blossoms, the rustle of trees offering their language of leaves, the occasional far-off voice from a village just waking. And still, Kisagotami walks ahead. You keep her within your gaze, not to follow blindly, but as a quiet gesture of kinship. Her figure is smaller now in the distance, but she remains within reach like a lantern glowing at the edge of your memory. You carry no bundle, nothing clutched in your arms, no plea held tightly in your chest. And yet you carry something deeper, a knowing, a stillness that has nothing to prove, a heart that has cried and yet continues to open. There's a phrase in the sutras that returns to you now, words you may have heard once, but which only now feel alive. What is not yours, abandon it. At first that seemed harsh, cold even, as if the teachings demanded disconnection, detachment, a heart hardened against love. But now you see, what is not yours does not mean the people you loved or the memories you cherish. It means the clinging, the grasping, the belief that holding tighter will somehow make the pain dissolve. You bring your awareness back to the breath. It comes without demand. You don't have to pull it in, it arrives. You don't have to push it out, it leaves. That's the nature of things arising, passing, returning. And that too is the nature of grief. You walk now with that understanding not as an idea, but as something embodied, something known in your bones. Up ahead, Kisagotami has reached a small hill. She climbs slowly, her steps deliberate. You follow. The incline is not steep, but it requires attention. Each step becomes a moment of choice, a gesture of presence. You reach the top, and there the world opens. Fields stretch in all directions, dotted with trees and small huts. A river winds through the land like a silver ribbon, its surface glittering in the morning sun. You can hear birdsong now, more distinct than before, lively yet peaceful. Kisagotami turns and looks back at you. She says nothing, but she lifts one hand in a simple gesture, palm open, fingers relaxed. A gesture that speaks of welcome, of arrival, of return. You stand beside her. The wind touches your face as if brushing away what still lingers, a last whisper of resistance, a final echo of the old ache. Not to erase it, but to soften it, to make space for what is here now. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, you see something not with vision, but with presence, the child she once carried, the grief she once bore, the doors she once knocked on, the mustard seed that no one could give. And you see too the person you were when you first came to this story, the ache you held, sort of the searching, the clinging, the silence, all of it still within you, but changed, not gone, not forgotten, transformed. You think of the seed again, and you realize the seed was never meant to be found. It was meant to reveal the impossibility of escape, to show that there is no house untouched by loss, and therefore there is no person untouched by love. You breathe that in, and in the exhale you let go of the idea that grief is something to conquer, something to overcome. You let go of the belief that sorrow must be solved. You begin to see it as a current, something that moves through you, not to harm you, but to shape you, to teach you how to sit still, how to breathe gently, how to bow even in the face of things you cannot change. Kisagotami begins to descend the hill. Her robe flutters slightly in the wind like a banner of peace. She walks with no fear. She has lived through her worst night, and she has found something on the other side, not a return to the past, but a deeper way of being present. You follow her again, but this time with a sense of deep respect. Not because she is a figure of legend, but because she is like you, someone who lost, someone who loved, someone who broke and learned how to keep breathing anyway. And in that shared experience, she becomes not just a story, but a companion, a sister on the path. As you walk, you think not of what was taken, but of what has remained: this breath, this body, this moment. You begin to understand that peace does not come when sorrow ends. It comes when resistance ends. And tonight or today, you have tasted that peace. You are not healed. You are healing. You are not complete. You are becoming. And that is more than enough. You pause at the edge of the next field. Kisagotami has moved on her path, continuing. You do not need to follow her now. You carry her with you. You sit beneath a tree. You close your eyes. You place your hand to your heart, and you listen, not for answers, but for the quiet truth that now lives within you. You have let go, not of the memory, not of the love, but of the need for things to have been different. And that is the beginning of peace. You remain seated beneath the tree, where the earth is warm and firm beneath you, and the branches arch gently overhead like arms offering shelter. The breeze has softened now, curling around your skin like a shawl, bringing with it the scent of distant blossoms and the faint, familiar smell of old soil earth that has witnessed centuries of grief and growth, love, and letting go. Kisagotami's figure is no longer visible, but she's not gone. Her presence lingers in the hush of this space, in the gentle clarity that now lives in your chest. You feel her not as a character in a story, but as a friend, a fellow traveler whose footprints made your own steps steadier. And as you sit here, something unexpected begins to stir within you. Not a burst of joy, not a sudden revelation, but a calm, unwavering sense of readiness. You're not rushing to move, but the stillness no longer feels like a hiding place. It feels like a preparation, a quieting before the next gentle unfolding. You breathe, and with that breath, something in you says, not in words, but in knowing, I am allowed to begin again. Not begin over, not erase what came before, but begin from here with everything you've learned folded softly into your being. The Buddha once described true compassion as the willingness to hold both joy and sorrow in the same heart. And perhaps now, after all you've walked through, you feel that capacity awakening inside you. You bring your hand to your heart again, and you listen, not to noise, not to thought, but to that steady rhythm. This is the same heart that once ached so sharply you thought you might not survive it. the same heart that has longed, that has clenched, that has cried in silence. And now it continues to beat more gently, more openly, not untouched by sorrow, but no longer afraid of it. You allow yourself to think of those you have lost, not as shadows now, but as part of the vast field you sit within. Their voices, their laughter, their presence woven into you in ways that breath alone can't explain. You don't need to imagine them vividly. You only need to feel the warmth that still remains. They are not held in suffering anymore, and neither are you. The grief hasn't disappeared. It doesn't need to. It's become something different. It's become part of your offering to the world, because now you can sit with others who are grieving. You can listen to their silence. You can hold space without needing to fix. And this too is part of your healing. You are no longer just the one who aches. You are the one who knows how to sit quietly with what aches in others. This is the alchemy of the path. The grief that once isolated you has become a bridge. The pain that once filled your lungs has become breath again. You feel the light shifting across your face, now dappled sun through the leaves, moving as the day continues forward. You haven't noticed time passing, but here it is unfolding all around you. You remain still, not from paralysis, but from peace. Kisagotami's journey didn't end when she understood impermanence. It began there, and yours is beginning now, not as a return to how things were, but as a movement forward born from truth. You imagine walking again, not toward anything, but with something, with grace, with compassion, with gentleness. You think of how Kisagotami must have cared for others after her transformation, how she must have looked into the eyes of those who wept and said nothing and offered everything, not her advice, not her certainty, just her presence. You can offer that too, to others, to yourself, especially to yourself. You whisper something now, not loud, not for anyone else to hear, just for you. I forgive myself for not knowing how to hold this before. It's not a dramatic statement. It's not a command. It's a kindness, a soft unfolding of the tight places in your spirit. You didn't fail when you grieved. You didn't do it wrong. You were learning how to love something even after it left. And now that love has matured into something quieter, but no less real. The sun is high now, the sky a gentle blue, brushed with drifting clouds. A bird flutters down to a nearby branch, tilting its head. It doesn't sing. It simply watches. Like you don't need to make a sound right now. You don't need to move. You just need to rest in the knowing that something has shifted. The clinging has loosened. The storm has passed. And in its place, a field of stillness has grown. Let yourself lie back now if you wish. Let the earth hold you, as Kisagotami once held her child, not to grasp, but to love. Let the sky open above you, vast and infinite, holding both your sorrow and your peace without distinction, because in the end they are not opposites. They are siblings. They are companions. They are the rain and the lotus that blooms because of it. So let the light fall over you. Let the breath move easily. Let your grief become wisdom, and let that wisdom become your way of loving. Time has become soft here, no longer measured in minutes or tasks, but in sensations, light drifting across your skin, the way your breath enters and leaves your chest, like a tide, the rhythm of thought, slowing to match the pace of leaves, swaying overhead. This is not a time to decide or do. This is a time to simply be, and being, you realize now, is an act of quiet courage. You lie back beneath the tree, the curve of earth beneath your spine, the sky like a great canvas stretched above you. Somewhere in the distance, a chime rings, a single note, pure and clear, vibrating through the morning air. It does not demand attention. It simply announces itself and fades. And in that fading, something inside you deepens. The journey you've taken with Kisagotami, with your grief, with your breath, has brought you here. Not to an ending, but to a turning. The kind of turning that doesn't lead away from sorrow, but further into the heart of compassion. The kind that says, this too is part of life. This too I can hold. You remember the moment she set her child down, not as a rejection, but as a release. Not a forgetting, but a reverent placing down of what could no longer be carried in the same way. It was an act of love, and now in your own quiet way, you've done something similar. You haven't cast aside what you lost. You haven't erased it or exiled it. You've simply changed how you carry it. Less as weight, more as wisdom. Less as pain, more as presence. There's an old teaching in the Pali Canon, spoken not with flourish, but with clarity, sabe sankara anicca. All conditioned things are impermanent. All formations change. And while that truth once felt harsh or clinical, it now feels like a balm, because in change there is hope. In impermanence there is softness. In the knowing that everything arises and passes, there is peace. You place one hand gently over your heart. It beats, not with urgency, not with heaviness, but with life. This too is part of the practice, remembering that you are still here, that even as you carry your memories, your sorrow, your unanswered questions, you also carry breath. You also carry light. The breeze shifts slightly. A bird calls nearby. The branches overhead sway, casting dappled shadows that flicker across your face. Nature, it seems, continues without apology. It does not pause for heartbreak, and yet it holds heartbreak within it. The same tree that shelters you now will one day shed its leaves. The same wind that soothes you will one day scatter petals. And this is not a tragedy. This is the teaching. You rise slowly now, not because you must, but because your body is ready. You stretch your arms toward the sky, not in effort, but in openness. The stretch is a celebration of movement, of breath, of being. You walk again, barefoot along the path, the dust warm beneath your soles. The monastery lies behind you, now still visible, but distant, like a place in a remembered dream. And yet, what it gave you has not been left behind. It lives in your steps, in your silence, in your softness. The road leads you through a grove of tall grasses. The sun is higher now, casting longer shadows behind the rocks and trees. You pause beside a small stream, its waters clear and cool. You kneel. You cup the water in your hands, just as Kisagotami once did, and you drink. It is clean. It is quiet. It needs no approval. And in that taste, something settles in you. You are not here to prove anything, not to the world, not to those you've lost, not even to yourself. You are here to witness, to breathe, to love without possession, to walk with what you once thought you couldn't bear, and to discover somehow that you can, that you have, that you are. You sit by the stream a while longer. A dragonfly skims the surface of the water, then lifts away again. You think of the people you love both near and far, both living and gone, and you offer them something not your effort, not your striving, but your stillness, a kind of prayer made only of breath. You whisper, "May you be at peace. May I be at peace. May we all find the path that holds us gently." You don't need to say more. The stream hears you, the wind carries it, and you quiet whole, no longer chasing release. Let the words go. Kisagotami once returned from her walk through sorrow, not empty-handed, but empty-hearted. Not in a hollow way, in a spacious way. Her grief, once so dense, had become air, light, compassion, and now perhaps yours has too. You may carry it still, but it no longer clings. It walks beside you. It bows when you bow. It rests when you rest. It has become a companion. And so you continue your walk, not toward closure, but toward continuity. Not toward forgetting, but toward remembering wisely. And in this remembering, you are made soft. And in this softness, you are free. You walk without urgency now. Each step is its own meditation, each breath a gentle wave of remembrance and release. There is no path to follow, not really not in the way there used to be. The road beneath your feet has become your own, unfolding with each quiet moment of presence. The stream recedes behind you, though its murmur still lingers in your ears. It feels like a lullaby now, not a longing. The ache that once echoed through your bones has changed tone. It's softer, rounded. A note held tenderly at the end of a song, still vibrating, but no longer sharp. And above you, the sky is wide, not just in size, but in feeling. It stretches far beyond what your eyes can see, and still you feel held beneath it. Letting go is not the end of love. This truth has made its home in you now. You carry it the way monks carry their bowls open light, aware that it is not what you grasp, but how you receive that shapes the heart. You pause in the shade of a tamarind tree. The ground beneath it is scattered with fallen pods, twisted and dry their shapes, imperfect and beautiful. You squat down, fingers brushing over their skins, and you realize these too are remnants of seasons that came and passed, of nourishment offered and now release. You pick up one pod, turning it in your palm. It's brittle but not broken. It carries the memory of sweetness, and in that something sacred. And perhaps that's what your grief is now, a memory of sweetness, a symbol of something once full, now empty and still, meaningful, still beautiful. You hold the pod gently for a moment, then you place it back among the others, not discarded, not forgotten, simply set down, like Kisagotami did with her child, like you did with your ache, with your need for answers, with your longing for things to be otherwise. There's a breeze moving now, low and constant. It brushes against your skin, through your hair, over the folds of your clothing. You don't brace against it. You let it move you. You feel how your body adjusts without resistance, and you marvel even without effort. I am carried. You begin to walk again, but it's not about going anywhere now. You are walking because this is what the earth invites you to do, to move with gentleness, to be alive with awareness, to step forward not from emptiness, but from fullness, the kind of fullness that needs no possession to sustain it. You pass by a child playing with a stick in the dust. He is drawing circles, one inside another, inside another. You pause, watching quietly. He looks up at you, not surprised, not fearful, just curious. You smile, he smiles back, and then he returns to his drawing. There's a teaching there, in the circles, in the simplicity, in the joy that lives in presence. You realize maybe for the first time, you don't have to fix anything. Not in yourself, not in your past, not in the people you've lost. You are not here to repair what was. You are here to dwell in what is, to keep company with truth, to allow space for what remains. You pass the child and continue walking. The day grows warmer, the sun more insistent, but you feel no burden in it. Your body is light, not because it is untouched by pain, but because you have stopped carrying more than you need to. Somewhere in the hills beyond a bell tolls, one long resonant note that cuts through everything, and yet it leaves nothing wounded. You stop, you close your eyes, and you let that sound echo within you. Not to name it, not to hold it, but to know that this too will fade, like grief, like joy, like breath. Everything arises, everything passes, and still something remains. A kind of kindness, a kind of quiet, a kind of knowing. You are not what you've lost. You are not even what you've let go of. You are the space that allowed the letting go. That space is vast. It is not empty. It is peace. You walk to the crest of a small hill and sit. Below the valley unfolds green, golden living. Birds rise in pairs from the fields. A woman carries water on her head, walking steadily toward home. A cart creaks over a dirt path. Life in all its simplicity moves on, and you are part of it again, not as someone broken, not as someone healed, but as someone here, alive, aware, awake. You sit quietly, the wind brushing past your ears. You let it all move through you, memory's breath light, and you whisper to no one, to everyone, to yourself, may I keep walking, may I keep loving, may I keep letting be. Let this be your vow, not carved in stone, but breathed into the wind. The river flows, the sky expands, and you soft and strong continue on. You remain seated at the crest of the hill, watching the world stretch out below you, so familiar, and yet now it shimmers with a clarity you hadn't seen before. The rice paddies catch the light like mirrors, and the rooftops of distant homes glint with morning sun. Everything feels hushed, even though the world moves. There is activity, yes, but not noise, not the kind that clutters the mind. Here, movement and silence are not opposites. They coexist like breath and stillness, like memory and peace. Your fingers rest lightly on your knees, so you are not holding anything. Not a question, not a grief, not even a goal. And that too feels new. For so long it was instinct to grasp, to solve, to understand, to name. But now, the need to define has softened. Instead of, why did this happen? You find yourself quietly wondering, how can I stay tender within it? That shift is everything. The Buddha once described the awakened heart as one vast enough to contain all things pain, joy, confusion, clarity, without closing itself off to any of them. And here now, seated above the living landscape of this world, you feel a trace of that vastness stirring within your own chest. You think of the ones you've lost, not in the aching way, but in the warm way. You see their faces clearly. Their voices, once so sharp with absence, now echo with a kind of sweetness. Not because the loss is forgotten, not because the love has faded, but because the relationship has changed. They are no longer grasped for, they are no longer clung to, they are remembered lovingly, freely, spaciously. That is the transformation, to remember with peace rather than with pain, to love what is gone without needing it back, to carry it not like a wound, but like a lamp, and what a light that is faint and steady, a lantern in the dark of memory, a candle lit in honor, not in desperation. You feel it now, that light glowing quietly in your ribs. It does not flare, it does not demand, it simply is, and it's enough. You begin to descend the hill, not with any sense of destination, but because your body wishes to move again. The air brushes against your face. The grass yields gently beneath your feet. As you walk, you pass by a small stone marker beside the path, weathered by years, covered in lichen. No name carved into it, just a presence, a reminder that others have walked here before you. You pause and place your palm atop the stone. It's cool, solid, anchored, and yet it too will someday erode. Even stone is not exempt from change. You smile softly, because now, instead of resisting impermanence, you feel its wisdom. Nothing is fixed, nothing is forever. And that is not a tragedy. That is the very condition that makes love, gratitude, and presence possible. You take a few more steps and find yourself beneath the shade of an acacia tree. Its thorns are sharp, but its blossoms are delicate. It reminds you that tenderness and strength are never truly separate, that even what protects can also bloom. You settle there back against the trunk and let your mind drift, not aimlessly but openly. You remember Kisagotami's face, not from that first night of grief, but from the morning she returned to the Buddha, empty-handed, tear-stained, and somehow clearer, not broken, but softened, not defeated, but awake. And you realize she didn't leave behind her love. She just stopped insisting that it rewrite reality. Instead, she let it rewrite her heart. And now you've done the same. Maybe you don't feel enlightened. Maybe there's no grand sensations of arrival. But that's not what awakening feels like, is it? It's the gentleness in your shoulders, the softness in your breath, the way you now sit with yourself without flinching. That is enough. You look out again over the valley. It's the same world that was here before your grief, the same hills, the same sky. But something inside you is quieter, wiser, more open. You don't need to chase joy. You don't need to push away sorrow. You only need to remain here, with the moment, with the breath, with the tender knowing that even pain, when welcomed, becomes a doorway. You place both hands on your lap palms open, and in the silence, you offer one last whisper, not to the sky, not to the past, not even to the ones you've lost, but to yourself. I see you. I've always seen you. You are not alone. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your companion. Let that be the peace that walks beside you. The world turns. The breath continues. The grief has found its place. And you walk on, whole not because nothing is missing, but because everything is held. The path before you is dappled in gold sunlight, filtered through tall branches, gently shifting as the breeze plays among the leaves. You move slowly now, not because you are uncertain, but because you have discovered something sacred in this pace. The way the feet meet the earth, the way the lungs rise and fall, the way the world unfolds moment by moment when you no longer race ahead of it. You walk as Kisagotami must have walked after the mustard seed journey, after the release, after the return to stillness. Her steps no longer frantic, her breath no longer shallow, her sorrow no longer held like a stone in the heart, but like a petal on a stream still present, still meaningful, but moving with the current of life. As you follow your own stream of breath, you find yourself pausing again. This time, near a bend in the road where tall grasses sway gently and the air smells of damp earth and the faint sweetness of tamarind. You sit once more, not from weariness, but from reverence. There is a peace here that feels ancient, as though the ground itself has absorbed the silent prayers of countless wanderers. You close your eyes and turn inward. You think now of the parts of you that used to resist stillness, the mind that raced for resolution, the heart that flinched at silence, and you offer them compassion, not as an afterthought, as a beginning, for all the times you tried to carry too much, for all the nights you blamed yourself for not healing faster, for all the moments you turned away from your own pain, hoping it would go away if ignored. You place a hand over your heart, and you say quietly but with certainty, "I forgive you. I understand now. You are doing your best." These words do not erase the past. They honor it. They bow to it. And in that bow, they release the grip it once had on you. Above you, a bird calls out a brief, sharp note, and then silence again. You listen not just to the bird, but to the silence that follows. The stillness between things. The moment after the breath. This is the space where peace lives, not in fixing the pain, but in letting it sit beside you undisturbed. You reflect again on Kisagotami's journey, not just her grief, but her transformation. She began her path as a mother, clinging to what had passed. She continued as a seeker knocking on doors, and she emerged as something new, not untouched by loss, but illuminated by it. And you have walked beside her in story. Now you begin to walk like her in spirit. It does not mean you will never feel sorrow again. It means you will know how to sit with sorrow when it visits. You'll know how to offer it tea instead of resistance, how to listen to it without letting it become your name. You are no longer the one who must carry the weight alone. You are the one who knows how to place it gently beside you, like a folded robe, like a faded photograph, like a stone warmed by the sun. You open your eyes and take in the world again. The grass is brighter now, the shadows softer. The road ahead stretches long and winding, but you no longer fear where it leads. You trust the path because you trust yourself. You begin walking again, your soles pressing gently into the soil. Every few steps, a fallen leaf crunches underfoot, and you smile not because it's over, but because you are walking it with your whole self now, without forcing, without hiding. The Buddha said, "As rain penetrates a house with a thatched roof, so passion enters a mind not cultivated." But your mind, your heart, your breath, they've been cultivated now by silence, by sorrow, by tenderness. And so when the rain comes, as it always does, you know how to greet it. You know how to let it pass through. You know it doesn't mean the house is ruined. It means you are human. It means you are alive. You walk past a tree with bark that is cracked and weathered. One of its limbs has broken off and healed over. A scar remains, but the tree continues to grow, twisting upward toward the sun with its remaining branches. It does not hide what it has lost. It does not try to grow backward. It simply reaches forward, and you too will do the same. You reach a small clearing now, where the wind picks up again cool, and carrying with it the smell of smoke from some distant kitchen. Someone is cooking rice. Life continues, and you breathing gently in this clearing, realize you've come far, not in miles, but in surrender. You are no longer afraid of what cannot be changed. You are no longer trying to return to before. You are walking with what is. The sky above you stretches vast and blue. You look up at it, your chest expanding, and you whisper, "Thank you," to the grief, to the story, to Kisagotami, to yourself. And then you walk on, still soft, whole. The wind softens again as you walk beneath a grove of tamarind trees, their delicate leaves casting shifting shadows over the path. It feels like walking through a dream now, not because you are disconnected from reality, but because reality has changed texture. The sharpness has faded. The need for answers has loosened. Even the weight of memory feels different, as though it has been steeped in compassion. You pause near a low stone wall, sun-warmed and covered in patches of moss. There, in a quiet pocket of morning, you sit again. Not to rest from effort, but because sitting has become part of your rhythm, like breathing, like listening, like allowing. Your palms rest lightly on your thighs. Your breath moves easily through your body. And you notice perhaps, for the first time, how peaceful it is to not be searching, to not be reaching for something just beyond this moment, to not be asking the world to be anything other than what it is. This is what Kisagotami discovered, not in the words of the Buddha alone, but in the silent walk between doors, in the honest answers from strangers, in the helplessness that eventually gave way to seeing. And this is what you've discovered too. It was never about finding the one house without grief. It was about understanding that no such house exists, and in that recognizing that you are not separate from anyone else. That loss does not make you an outlier. It makes you human. It joins you to the rest of us, quietly, tenderly. You breathe into that knowing. You don't feel inspired in the way the world often expects, in bursts of motivation or declarations of purpose. You feel something better, steady, grounded, soft. There is a line from the Dhammapada that floats into your awareness now. As a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. But you've come to see that this solidity does not mean becoming hard. It means becoming open. Like the rock, yes, but also like the water that wears it down. Strong not from resistance, but from endurance, from flow. You rise from the wall and begin walking again barefoot in the dust. The sun overhead casts long shadows behind you now. And with every step, something inside you becomes clearer. You are not your grief. You are not your story. You are not your past. You are the space that holds them all. You are the awareness that watches the breath come and go, the calm that watches the clouds pass, the stillness that listens without judgment. And in that stillness, everything belongs. You recall now a moment some time ago when the grief felt unbearable, when the ache in your chest was so sharp you couldn't see how it would ever soften, when sleep wouldn't come, when tears arrived without asking. But here you are, breathing, not healed in some final way, but whole enough to keep walking, You pass a farmer now bent over a row of green shoots. He glances up and nods. You nod back. No words, just an exchange of presence, an acknowledgement. He knows grief too. You can see it in the quiet way he moves, and you walk on. A child runs across the path ahead of you, chasing a small ball of woven straw. She laughs, trips, falls, and looks up with wide eyes. You freeze for a moment, ready to help, but she smiles, picks herself up, and carries on laughing again as she runs. You breathe a little deeper. Even the smallest ones know falling isn't the end. You walk to the edge of a wide clearing where the sky opens above, unbroken and generous. You stop, face the wind, and let it touch you fully. Your arms relax by your sides. Your face softens. Your chest lifts with the breath. You do not need a new story now.